The universe travels the path of entropy. The only way forward is chaos.
What is up, YouTube? And welcome back to episode 8 of the Draco RC project. Boy, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Well, it's been a week since the last Draco episode. It feels like a couple of weeks. Just so much work that I've been doing. It's great. I love it. It's amazing. Doing the Chaos Daily and the Draco and everything else. It's awesome. I'm going to keep doing it. It's great. And I'm not even being sarcastic. Really. Okay, so let's get straight into it, right? I like to think I haven't done much. This is just my own personal feeling of inadequacy and why am I wearing a hat? Oh, because it's the Draco, you know, flying cowboys? No? Alright, okay, fine. You sure I can't wear the hat? I really like the hat. No? Right, okay. Well then, let's get into it. Yeah, working on the Long Easy project in the background has really helped out. The stuff that I'm doing on the Draco now is really just fiddly, making connection tabs, register fits, making sure everything goes to how everything's going to attach and go together, where this glues to that, or where that bolts that into that, and it's a lot of just tedious piece by piece by piece by piece. Most of the large parts are done, so there's not any more creative, or I don't have to make anything anymore. Making stuff's the easy part, like just making stuff from scratch or following a thing. The making part is the easy part. This is now going to be the hard slog. This is the hardest part of this build. This is going to take the longest of time in this build, and that is getting everything to fit. Tolerances, making sure how everything goes together. Does this piece, and this piece, when you put them together, can you still get that rod through there? Like the order of operation for assembling stuff. I have to think about all of these things beforehand. And all of this, it's like a giant puzzle piece where all the puzzle pieces have an undefined shape, and it's your job to first define all the shapes of all the puzzle pieces before you put them together, and then put them together and they have to fit, even though you had to define their shapes before you had a chance to put them together. So they're intellectually circular. So I have to think about how it's going to be before I do it, so that when I do it, it can be what it has to be. Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense here, or I'm just waffling on? Anyway, let's jump into Inventor, and I'll show you guys what I've got done. I hope it meets your standards. Like, it just barely meets mine. I wish I'd done more, but I've run into a few things this week, and I've just run out of time. So here we go. Let's do it. Is this starting to look like a plane, or is this starting to look like a plane? I think it's starting to look like a plane. I don't know about you. A couple of things straight off the bat. Windows, doors, seats, instrument panel. Yay! Oh wow, that was some interesting work. Yeah, working on the inside of the fuselage is tricky. There's a lot of weird shapes and stuff. I've already made an episode about it called Cray shapes. Yeah, it's coming back to bite me. Some of the ways that methods that I use to make this shape are not conducive to what I need to do now, and I have to use even crazier methods to get what I want done. A couple of things I still want to try and alter before I move forward is the tolerance for the door. You can see the gap, see the light coming through. I need to make that tolerance a little bit tighter, but at the same time, if I make it tighter, then the door can't open. Let's have a closer look. So I've made these hook hinges. These are super simple. If you're ever having to make doors for your your landing gear, or just doors in general, and it needs to open up in such a way, and you can't put a hinge on the point where it bends, or there are obstructions or stuff like that. You make these kind of hook hinges. I might do a video explaining how you set these up, because there's a bit of geometric trickery that you have to do to get this right. But in general, what it allows is for it to rotate around an axis offset from the point where you'd normally put like a piano hinge, but you can't. This is too small to do that kind of hinge thing, and then it would be visible. So if you want a hinge that is invisible, that is not visible when the door is closed, and it closes seamlessly, and you don't want to have some complicated multi-linkage offset hinge system like they have on cupboard doors and stuff, then you go with this type of hinge. It is really easy to set up, bit of geometric trickery, and you can see here when it closes, it clears the lip of the door frame, and then when it gets to close, it just clears. So yeah, the tolerances for this are a little bit tight up here, but unfortunately what that's left me with is almost a 1mm gap all the way around, which I don't really like. So I'm going to see about how I can alter this to make it a bit more flush, because this is going to cause flutter and all kinds of weird things in the air and with the airstream, especially with the prop right in front here. The high velocity air coming past here is going to cause all kinds of problems. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to put some kind of like a lip on the inside around the edge, and maybe a magnet or something, a very small magnet, just so that when it closes, it holds tight nicely and we don't have any issues from that. Did I mention these in the last episode? I think so. Yeah, so we've got these struts. I've still got to do the struts in the back window, but I now have the underside geometry. Let's open this door back up. So got the seats. They were fun. Gave them some nice scale look and detail. I think they'll be pretty fragile, but they don't have to actually hold anybody's weight. I've been discussing. Somebody commented about making a 3D model of Mike Patey to put in the front. I'm going to see if I can do something like that. Get a small, like 1/5 scale person with a bald head and put it on the front seat. But we'll see how that goes. This tray in the bottom, carbon fiber tray, bolts in 6 bolts. I've sized it just so that if you unbolt it, you remove the seats, then the whole thing can actually come out through the door once it's assembled. This adds some extra rigidity. And then this big square hole here, there'll be another panel, and I'll make another like hooked hinge type thing there with the front seats. So in here, you'll have all of your components, your receiver battery, all of that sort of stuff, all goes in here. And this is where all the wires distribute to the front for the variable pitch prop servo and for the ESC. And then also the wires will come around the back here to behind the seats, up the side at the back of the window, and then into the back. So into the back here, there's this sort of ledge. This is the back part of the wing root core. So if we hide this, you can see it better. So you got this ledge here. So I'm going to put some holes and stuff here. So any of the wires for the servos for in the wings will come up around the bottom here, under this tray, and they'll come up the side here. I'll put some nice wire channels or some hooks to hold the wires in place. They'll come up the top here, run along the top on the inside here, and then into the top here. It's a bit of a circuitous route for all the servo wires, but it'll be out of the way, and I'll figure out ways to cover it up on the inside here. I might use some sort of like a vinyl wrap or something. I've tried to create geometry to make the interior cabin trim like you have in the real aircraft. Unfortunately, I'm having some trouble actually making those shapes because of the craziness of these shapes. Getting them to conform is being a real pain in the butt. But I've got a couple of ideas that I'm going to use to try and make those shapes and get them to work. All those wires come up in here for the wings. That's all that sorted. We've got wires that'll come through here to the back, and I'm going to put servos in the tail. Now, this might change, because I don't know where the weight distribution is. I don't know where the center of gravity is just yet. So the servos will either have to come here at the front under this component tray, or they'll have to go in the back of the tail, which would be better because then you don't have big long linkage arms for them to flex and bend, and you lose force from your servo on your rudder and your elevator. And there's going to be quite a lot of force on the rudder and elevator because of the size of them. This instrument panel, that was fun. So when I started this and I got all that reference material from the build series on Mike Patey's YouTube channel, I took screen grabs of everything. And one of the things I took screen grabs of is when he was doing the custom instrument panel, like aluminum thing that he was getting cut out of a big billet of aluminum. So I took screenshots when he pointed the camera at the screen. So this is the actual panel out of the Draco. Now it's cut off on the end there and I can't see quite what's on the other side, but I've got most of it pretty much. And I just copied the G5 and these other switches and stuff over onto the other side. It looks scale enough, it looks good enough, there's lots of detail. I'll paint these and I will put an LED behind the back of them. So these panels, these screens, I'll mask them over when I paint it so that when I remove the mask, the light will shine through and it will look like the screens are actually turned on. So that will be super cool and interesting. I really like that. There's another added bonus to this control panel. It's actually quite thick. You can see there if I zoom out where it starts to clip the graphics. This is quite a thick, it's like 3mm if I remember correctly. So this bracket that comes up around the top here, when I glue this, I'm going to use that aesthetic console to actually be a structural component. It's going to help reinforce this firewall section where all the weight of the engine and the front end of the aircraft and all the forces from the motor and everything are applied to this front section. This will help reinforce it. I'm also going to add some more reinforcing here where the carbon fiber spar that comes out of the landing gear leg and comes in through the fuselage into these slots that are at the right angle to hold the legs in place. Hopefully this is going to be strong enough. There's a lot of meat on this. Big fillets, lots of weight distribution. I've also created this gusset that goes across with additional cross gussets in multiple directions. So this should be plenty strong. I'm going to add some additional gusseting in here between these pillars and this front one, and probably connect a gusset from this plate to this plate. When I assemble everything, it is getting assembled with the same resin. This does two things, right? It makes a contiguous bond, right? It is the same part. Once they go together, they're the same part. It's all the same resin. There's no glue bond. There's no solvent bond. It becomes the same material all the way through. Same material properties, and that's the beautiful thing about resin printing, is that the stuff that you make your parts out of is in a liquid form that also is the resin. So when I put it all together, these parts that look flimsy and weak when they're all separate, when they go together, they become a more rigid structure. They create their tubular forms, their I-beam forms, their gusset forms. All these different structural geometries come together to make a much stronger part. So I'll see where I need to add some more strength, but it's getting pretty strong as it is, and I have to keep an eye on the weight. So there'll be a big carbon fiber 22mm tube that runs all the way through all of these holes, through the center there, and that's going to distribute weight from the front firewall where we have all these carbon fiber rods that attach the motor to the front of the plane. This framework that these rods are going to be epoxied into, this framework also becomes part of the airframe. So even though they're separate parts now, when I print them, there's no register tabs or anything yet. I'm still going to work on that, but they're going to become one piece. So this black frame that you see here, that becomes one piece with the front firewall, and the carbon fiber tube comes out through here, and I'm going to extend it out a little further and create parts of the front cowling that will go around the tube as well. So the front cowling will be secured to the tube and transfer forces from aerodynamic forces, forces from the prop wash, and everything like that will go through the tube instead of going through the motor casing. And the motor casing only needs to deal with forces from the prop and the weight of the aircraft behind it. So everything gets transferred through this carbon fiber tube. The things that I'm still a little bit worried about, I need to put in another carbon fiber rod running from the bottom here up along this pillar, and also this pillar here. So this pillar and this pillar, if you look on the Draco, and I've got a picture here that I've used for a lot of references, if you look real close, you can just about see there's a pillar that runs along here, and it goes to the front firewall. So it's not just these two here. You can just about see it here as well, and a bit here. So there's going to be two more 3mm, because these are 3mm carbon fiber rods that are going to be attached behind this pillar, and then I'm also going to do one behind this pillar, and it will be secured along this seam. So when it all gets glued together, it all gets epoxied together, that seam plus the carbon fiber rod, and I'll put some little tabs in it to hold the rod in place while the resin sets up. So yeah, that will allow me to transfer the forces from the front firewall through these rods, the rods behind this pillar, the rods behind this pillar, and then also through the carbon fiber tube that runs to the back, and then up through the tail section assembly, up through the roof to because there's going to be pillars that run in the back here behind the window that go to this point, and they make a diamond shape behind the window, and then there's more that go inside the cabin from the top of the window to the root of the wings. The struts that come in the back window here come to these back corners, and then from these back corners they then bridge again inside to the middle point of the cabin and the roof there. So I can't find the picture that I saw them in. I'm pretty sure I've seen them. I just can't find the picture for some reason. But yeah, so there's going to be additional carbon fiber reinforcing with carbon fiber rods and tubes inside the cabin to help transfer the forces around these massive windows, because all of these very thin pillars and everything are big structural weaknesses. So I have to find ways to work around that and get the forces to transfer up to the wing where the wing loading is to the root of the wing. So yeah, so there you go, that pretty much covers it. Lots of interesting little parts and details, but like I said, most of the stuff that I'm doing now is not very interesting stuff. Like for instance, you didn't even notice most of the things. If we look at the inside here, you'll see that these little register tabs, there's one there, there's one up here, there's another one just down there. Can't really see it, there we go. Yeah, there's another one in here which joins those two pieces, and also along the back edge here that joins the tail section to the roof and the floor. So yeah, there's lots of these little register tabs all over the place. Now, they're just there to help me align everything, and they also add just a little bit of extra structural integrity and strength to those joint areas in the early stages before the resin has time to properly cure and make everything a single piece. So what I might do is, when I go to assemble everything, I might use a little bit of CA glue just to tack a couple of spots every so often. And then the plan is I've got myself these hypodermic needles, right? But these ones are cool because, I hope you're not squeamish, but that's a blunt end. These are squared off blunt tips. I got these for vaping, using them for mixing up flavors, and you can put them in the flavor bowl, measure up a slight amount, and then you can add it to your PG and VG, your propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, to make up your vaping juice. So these will work really great. So what I'll do is I'll use some aluminum foil tape. I'll cover the plunger section so that no light can get to it, and then I can draw up a whole bunch of resin and then use this very carefully to fill all the seams, pretty much like welding. I'll literally just be going along and welding it, and then I can put the part under some UV light and it'll cure. So that's the plan. I'm going to be using these in various sizes and difference for all different parts of the project. I think that's going to make everything so much easier and a hell of a lot less messy. Instead of like using a brush or some other way to apply it, I think these are going to be really useful. So yeah, that's the plan. And I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing the progress so far. I would have liked to have more like visually appealing progress to show you, but like I said, it is all just a lot of very tedious stuff that's left to do now. Very tedious. So for the next episode, I'll probably focus more on the component side of things, set up, probably looking at the lighting, because I haven't even looked at doing all the lights, navigation lights, strobe lights, all of the lights that Mike put on the plane, and he went overboard. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you'd like to help out the channel, check out our Patreon. There's also now a donate link down below for PayPal, so that if you don't want to do the whole Patreon thing, which is totally understandable, you can just chuck me a few bucks every so often or whatever. That really helps out because there's a lot of components and stuff that I need to purchase for this plane, and my budget is very tight. So most of it's getting spent on the printer and all of the resins and stuff. So every little bit helps. Also, patrons, they get exclusive access to my patron Discord server, the Chaos Legion. We hang out there and talk about all sorts of fun stuff about the projects, what some of the members are doing. Poor TTN, he just lost his Foamy 2 aircraft. RIP Foamy 2, a moment of silence. Alright, now, so yeah, I've been Chaos, and as always, expect the unexpected, and I'll see you guys next time.
And a special thank you to all my patrons that help support the channel. If you would also like to support the channel, there's a link in the description.